Good afternoon and welcome to our Goizueta Distinction web chat. My name is Angela Bostic. I'll be your moderator today. I am joined on the panel by the program office, one of our students, and the CMC. And we're going to talk a little bit today about what makes the Goizueta program unique and really what makes us great. I'm going to put a slide up here so you can see that during the chat, the participants on there, but a little bit of housekeeping before we get moving. You guys are allowed to submit questions throughout the process. We'll see them, actually I will see them on the screen and I'll be fielding them for the folks that are answering them over here to my left. So go ahead and ask your question. If we can't get to it on air, I'll make sure somebody out there captures that and follows up with you afterwards. We'll try to field as many questions as humanly possible. With that said, there's some really great content here, so the slides will likely answer some of the questions you might have. So make sure that as you're looking through your questions, some of the information might be up on the screen for you already. And then afterwards, of course, we'll make sure we make the chat in its totality and the slides available to you to take a look at afterwards, because we know you will be wowed and amazed by our wonderful participants today. And just as one more point of housekeeping, many of you may be joining us this Saturday for our first Goizueta Full-Time MBA Open House, and if so, welcome in advance. Some of this information will also be covered there, and you should definitely make sure you find the folks you see here and others and ask some more questions about that then. So without further ado, I'm going to let my folks to my left introduce themselves, and we'll get started. Corey?
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Corey Dortch. I work here in our full-time MBA program office, championing the full-time one-year program and the full-time two-year program. We work very closely with curriculum and with our faculty, with other staff, and also with experiential and leadership development programs for our students. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Ethan Rosenberg. I'm a second-year student, part of the full-time program. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and I'm focusing on finance and management while at school.
Hello, my name is Maureen Mannion-Leone, and I am the Senior Director of the CMC, or Career Management Center, for the full-time programs. That's both the two-year and the one-year program.
Great. So we're going to go over three areas this afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about our curriculum, talk a little bit about our community, and then our career preparation. So the three C's, as we typically call them. I'm going to let Corey kick it off talking about the distinction of our curriculum. Corey?
All right, thank you, Angela. So our curriculum is very unique and distinct from any other across the country and even in the world. There are several areas that are very important for you to understand about our community as well as about our curriculum. First of all, we are the only school in the nation who delivers a world-class business education with the advantage of a small, intimate learning environment and the advantages of a global dynamic city. And I know you're seeing that on the slides here, but it's really true when you look at where we are positioned in the country with our curriculum, with our faculty, and with the dynamic city that Atlanta is. You see that Emory Goizueta is the only place in the country like it, and so we hope to see you here. Next slide, please. Another hallmark of our curriculum, you'll see on this slide right now, is the opportunity for you all to have more electives. So a bit about our curriculum, and I'll break it down in just a little bit, but you'll have all of your core in the first semester, and after that, you have an opportunity to take so many electives. And I always tell folks, especially prospective students, that I like for our students to build their toolkit with things that, some things that they already know, but they need to sharpen up on, some things that they don't know, and they know they don't know, but also some things where they're kind of in the middle. You have an opportunity through our core curriculum as well as with our elective options to do that. We're very experiential with our programming. Our dynamic faculty lead those opportunities, and we have a focus on leadership as well. In addition to those things, we're very analytical here with our program, and we have a global focus as well.
Before we leave the slide, Clara, I want to field some of the questions that have come in because you've covered some great content.
Yeah, that was a bit much, right? Getting through it. I know there are a lot of you all out there.
So I know we're talking a lot about the school's distinction and sort of what makes us unique. So every MBA program is going to have curriculum, and they're all going to have electives and core courses. But in particular, a number of years ago, Goizueta redesigned the curriculum in order to move the important or the core content forward. Talk a little bit about what this process did for the students and sort of how that uniqueness has been playing out for students over time.
Sure. So we redesigned our curriculum in 2009, and that when we did that, there was a lot of feedback. As you can imagine, there were a lot of inputs for us to get that result. Lots of feedback from our alums from all around the world, lots of feedback from our recruiters and our career partners, lots of feedback from our students, and with faculty as well. And so what we did in redesigning that program, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the specifications of that in just a minute. But what we did was gave an opportunity for our students to get all of their core curriculum in the first semester. You will notice as you learn more about Goizueta is we start a bit earlier than many of our other business schools. As Ethan shaking his head. Ethan's shaking his head. Yes, we do. So it's true, we do start at the end of July. That's typically when we'll start. But all of those things go in to make you more prepared for the first day in business school and for your fifth promotion outside of business school. And like I said, I'll talk some about our particular areas that really set our students apart. I know Maureen will talk some about the opportunities you will have with career. But long story short, what that does is by you starting earlier, it allows an opportunity for you all to have some of your core courses. Your first block will be done really before you interact with companies. We have many companies and company presentations on campus. You will be done with that, and so you are very educated as you go out across the country and participate in national career fairs and career forums, and recruiters are on campus recruiting earlier this year. So you guys will have some of those analytical pieces that we talked about. You will have already have experienced those in the classroom, and you will have some opportunities for experiential learning that you can use for your interviews as well. So it's worked out beautifully over the last couple of years, since 2009, since we implemented this. You know, having been here beforehand and seeing the results, and having been here afterwards, you can definitely see the results with our students. You can see what our alums say now as opposed to what they said then. And you can see with our placements, and I know Marie will talk about that, how well we've placed in the last few years. It's really all working together for the benefit of our Goizueta students.
Corey, I know that, as you mentioned, Maureen will talk about the career opportunities students have been able to see with that, but I did want to kind of touch on the fact that that front-loaded core sort of drives the uniqueness home of the electives. And so I've gotten a couple questions about experiential. So like, what is more experiential? And how would you describe experiential in the way that we do it in the program?
Sure.
Specifically, you know, the classes that we have and how that is different than you'd find in other programs for experiential and when they have it.
Right. So that's a great segue into the next slide. And so these slides are kind of
we work together.
We work together here.
Right.
These slides are going to answer many of your questions. But you know, and I'll keep that question in mind, but I'll talk about it in three different pieces. The first, you know, you're seeing the slide now. Day one readiness. Then a tolerance for ambiguity. That's where those experiential things will come in. And also a strong leadership presence. So day one readiness, and I mentioned that earlier. There is a series of communications. So from right now, this time when I'm meeting you, right, even virtually, but from right now, we are beginning to form a relationship. You with us and us with you. And everything we do from right now until that first day of class in July is going to prepare you for our business school. It's going to prepare you from an academic perspective, and so in that regard, we will host a number of academic preparation sessions that will happen. We call them foundations courses. That's to get you prepared for business school, to get you prepared to be back in our classroom. Those will focus in areas of mathematics and statistics, as well as in accounting, for you to take advantage of. Many of you will be required to take those, just depending on your admissions process. But I always encourage everyone to take them. You know, it's great. You know, in day one preparation, it's great to sit the first, you know, the week or two before you begin official orientation back in the classroom to kind of get a feel for what it's like. Most of you will have been out of business school for about 4 or 5 years before returning, and you've been working in corporate America. It's a whole lot different. I'm sure Ethan will talk about that in being a student versus being a corporate professional. So we want to ease you back in. Also, we always encourage folks who are prospective students, and I know you all will have an opportunity to interact with some of our faculty throughout your admissions process, but to be aware of what's going on in business, because many of our faculty members will pull on the things that have been going on in the last 12 months in their classes to really to teach business and to teach you how to be better thinkers and to teach you how to be better leaders in that regard. The second piece of this slide that's very important is a tolerance for ambiguity. So as we reevaluated our curriculum, one of the pieces of feedback that we received from our recruiters and our alums also was that our students needed to be better prepared for ambiguity, for ambiguous situations where the data is imperfect. because that often happens, as you know, and you have to make a decision. And so that's something that we focus on through our curriculum, is building a tolerance for ambiguity, and that really shows so much for our students when they go off to their internships, but also it helps them land that job too. It sets our students apart from the others. Finally, a leadership presence. That's very important, as you guys can imagine, and to kind of hone in on some of that and to kind of, build that out, not only from an academic perspective, but also from an experiential perspective. We have the Goizueta Advanced Leadership Academy. And so the Goizueta Advanced Leadership Academy, or GALA is which we often will refer to it as, is an experiential education exercise. It happens only for second-year students, and if you're applying for the one-year program, when you finish your summer, you are considered a second-year student. So second-year students have an opportunity to apply for GALA. There's an application process, and they're intense sessions. It starts at the end of the first semester, and they go all the way throughout until the end of your last semester, with the capstone being a sailing challenge. And the past couple of years, it's been in the British Virgin Islands. And so those are some of the ways that we kind of build together with some of the things that I've talked about. I'm sure there are probably some questions right now.
There are lots of them.
I'm sure there are. And I'm trying to get through these slides, but my colleagues are here also.
Definitely keep your questions coming. As you notice, if you sit anything out, if I have not asked it on question, on air, I'm answering back directly to you. So definitely keep sending them, and I will type and defer as best as possible.
Okay.
But I wanted to, before I leave this, the questions have been about sort of the day one readiness and leadership and what that relates most to, and that's more of a career thing. So I know, Maureen, you're going to talk a little bit later, but I did want you to talk about kind of how recruiters have seen these elements, if you will, in our students, and what has that been able to do for us in terms of the way that we're seen by individuals looking for top talent? Because I know that these points of the things in our curriculum really do have manifest themselves in the career side.
Right. So recruiters have come back to us time and time again saying every year we've been improving as far as the talent at Goizueta, especially in the career leadership perspective. We've gotten great feedback from recruiters saying that our students are ready to go on the job, that on-the-job readiness, and are able to be leaders right when they step foot on the job. And that's what we're really looking for, and that's what we're looking to build. And really, Angela, every year it's gotten better. I mean, recruiters have amazing things to say. We've had more and more companies come to Goizueta, and we've had the number of interviews that we've had on campus has been recruiting by 15% each year.
That's phenomenal. And I really do think, I mean, when we talk about this, really we're highlighting the distinctive parts about the program, and I can't stress enough, words on a slide won't really bring that home, just how unique this is. And I'm sure, Ethan, you can speak to it as well.
Sure.
It sounds really great, but it really is an important thing when you experience it, because it is a unique way of preparing yourself, not just for the job you're going after at the moment, but sort of for your long-term career preparation. Would you say so?
Absolutely. I think one of the best ways to see the school is really just come and visit us. And I think when you come and see the community that we have here, it really sets ourselves apart from other business schools. I think the small community, and I'll talk a little bit about that later when I get to my slides, really allows
Corey's
us.
hogging up all the slides.
Sorry.
He is. He's
Taking all the time.
He's doing a great job though. But you get to see the leadership capabilities that we have, and just the caliber of the students that we have here, and it's really exciting to be a part of that and constantly give back to that, not only while I'm here, but as I graduate and become an active alumni of the program. I'd love to give back.
That's awesome. So we got a couple of questions specifically about the two slides you presented, Corey. One talking about that leadership presence talk.
Sure.
And again, we have a really hard time in text trying to explain the fullness and the richness of this experience. Can you explain a little bit about the capstone project,
Sure.
so the sailing challenge? I know it's not always that, but talk about in the last year or so, sort of what does that do? It's really hard to explain how a sailing trip imparts leadership skills. I've actually gone as a moderator for it. I got a great tan, but also learned a whole lot about myself and about sort of the leadership model. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, one of the components of our Goizueta leadership model is one of the things that we want our leaders to do, and I'm saying leaders, you guys will, are the future leaders here at Goizueta, but we work across boundaries, and that's straight from our Goizueta leadership model, and that's in all aspects of the word. We are committed to developing you as a leader throughout, not only throughout, the experiential education program, programs, but also academically and within the classroom. We are so dedicated. We have an associate dean for leadership who is, his job is to help develop you, with the tools that you learn in the classroom, with the things that you guys bring, and kind of taking you to the next level. As a part of the leadership of the Gala program, you guys will have opportunities to really, I tell students, it's an opportunity, a rare opportunity where you will have to really put the mirror on yourself and to really work on yourself for intensively for about 6 months. That happens in a couple of ways. First is the one-on-one coaching. And so that's an opportunity for you to kind of understand yourself as a leader, as a person, and how, it's in your from your last semester to, the last 2 semesters you have in business school. And so you kind of get an opportunity to reflect in that way. We have leaders, I mentioned earlier that Atlanta is a dynamic global city. So we've had, for the last couple of years, a partnership with Maestro Robert Spano from the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra to come in and talk about leadership from his perspective and what you do as a maestro and how he can parallel that into leadership in business and beyond. We kind of take an approach, we have an opportunity, like I said, so many companies are hubbed right here in Atlanta, and so we work with our corporate partners as well to kind of have them come in and do small sessions with the folks who are a part of the Leadership Challenge. Something that you would know about the leadership, the Gala program, is that it's intense. I know I just said British Virgin Islands. It is not vacation. If you're thinking it's vacation, I've done a number of floats. I also worked on my tan, as you may be able to tell, as a result of that program. But it's very intense. So students arrive in the BVIs and you work hard on teams for 5 days, solving complex problems. Problems around communication, problems around ambiguity, problems around working together and managing a team. And so these are real world experiences that you will have. And obviously we're in the middle of the water, and so the biggest piece of ambiguity is the weather and how you will react to the weather. And so, I've seen big, 250-pound guys who are strong and, on the side of the boat, seasick because, and these, little small ladies just kind of, taking charge and, but that happens. And, we parallel that with what happens in the market and with the real world. As you all know, the market's often up and down. Some say we're recovering now, but we use everything that we learn in Gala and parallel it to the real world and to your academics and to your classes.
That's wonderful, and I appreciate, Corey, you talking a little bit about that. It is something you have to kind of see and experience. I think if you get a chance to attend on campus and talk to some students who've actually done the trip, it's really amazing to see how you can learn that through it. Mm-hmm. Knowing that we've got lots of great questions and got lots of slides still left to go, I'm going to move us along. But before I leave, I wanted to talk about, we had one question specifically about the sort of the importance of leadership and showing it in your application, in your process. Sure. So how do you see, and I know this is not an admissions mm-hmm. thing or for y'all on here, but how important would you say and how well do you think some students are good at being able to show their leadership presence sure. when they're trying to put together like a formal sure. application? What are some of the things that you think would be valuable?
Yeah. So it's really, one of the beautiful things about Goizueta, and I know Ethan will talk about this, is the community. Right? One of the things that we're looking for in our applications and in our applicants is a whole student, right? And so a part of that is showing increased leadership presence, whether it's in your work experiences before coming to business school, increased responsibility. I know many of you are, are very involved in your communities. So showing leadership maybe within organizations. Some of you may be entrepreneurs, and so showing how you've taken an organization from one level to another level, and really just kind of highlight your leadership skills. Like I said, both professional leadership skills, and I know many of you will have been involved in your communities. Many of you were involved in college. Many of you have been involved in different service organizations like Relay for Life that you're passionate about. And so we like passionate leaders in Goizueta. Tell your story. Right? When we are sitting reading applications, you are the only person who can tell your story. And so we want to hear your story. It's often a great day and a great time when we get the whole class together and we hear different pieces of folks' story. And so it really makes a great class. And so tell your story in the unique way and shine, let your leadership shine, because I know you all are great leaders and you have been.
That's awesome. So I'm going to move us a little bit further because I know you want to talk about that first semester and the rigor
Sure.
of the program. So I'm going to move us forward. You can continue to send your questions in, and we'll field them both either here through the chat directly or on air. So I've got up on the screen the details about our day
Yes.
one readiness.
So
and
day
rigorous
one
semester.
readiness. All right, me again. All right, so depending on which population you are, whether you are seeking admission into the full-time one-year program or the full-time two-year program, will determine what your first semester looks like. So for those of you, I know you're seeing right now at the top of the PowerPoint screen, for those of you who are seeking candidacy for the full-time one-year program, your core will happen in 2 blocks. And that happens approximately around the 3rd week in May is when we'll get started. And so that'll go for about 5 weeks for block 1. And then you'll have the second block. There'll be a small break, typically around the 4th of July, which is a United States holiday, Independence Day. That's typically the breaking point between block 1 and block 2. After block 1 has complete, you'll see increased information coming from our Career Management Center, kind of preparing you for the remainder of your summer, but especially for the fall semester when our normal recruiting time will kick up. And so those of you who are interested in the 2-year program, you'll see that you have 3 blocks. And so block 1, block 2, block 3. And you have about 5 to 6 weeks in either of those blocks. And some pretty unique things will happen. So block 1 is you guys are here. You're the only people here. The BBAs who share the building with us, they're not on campus. The 1 years are done with their core. And so you guys are the only people here. And it's really a unique opportunity for you to get your feet settled and well planted in business school and get used to the environment. You'll have a series of exams after block 1. Then you'll pick up on block 2. And Angela, if you can kind of hit the next, I'll talk some about the classes. There they go. I'll talk a little bit. Don't be overwhelmed. I know that was a lot. And so so we'll have block 1. What will happen is you'll see now these arrows. There are a series of classes that begin at different points during the block. You'll see first up is the economics course. That will only happen in block 1, either for the 1-year program or for the 2-year program. And so it's quick. Like I said, we want you to be prepared day 1 in the classroom. And so we need you to come in with your mind right and ready to rock and roll. In block 2, you'll pick up a number of classes. And so the accounting course will start in block 2. You'll see finance course runs from block 1 through block 2. Marketing is from block 1 to block 2. And the data and decision analytics, we call it DDA, runs from block 1 to block 2. Your strategy course will also pick up in block 2 in addition to the accounting course. And so you'll have that to pick up. In block 3, you'll see the continuation of some of your classes, your accounting course, your strategy course, but you'll also pick up process and systems management. At the bottom of that slide, you should see a course called Management Practice. And so Management Practice runs throughout all 3 blocks, as well as the Cornerstone course. And I'll talk a little bit about either of those in just a minute. All of these things, we've talked a bit about being prepared and the distinction between our students at Goizueta and other students. All of these academic courses work together really to make you prepared academically and makes you prepared from a career perspective as well. We really want to sharpen you and sit you in the right place before you begin block 2, because as we discussed earlier, block 2 is an opportunity for you to really dive into our elective courses. Oftentimes we have way more elective courses than every year. Actually, we have more elective courses than students have an opportunity to participate in. Get the next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
I know I see Angela typing away.
I'm typing
Questions coming in, and keep your questions coming. I know a number of you will be here on Saturday at Open House, and I will be here as well, and so we can follow up some if you don't get all of your questions asked on Saturday. So the next slide you see is, it talks more about management practice course. And management practice, as you will remember, is one of the classes that runs throughout blocks 1, 2, and 3. And management practice is really the special class that we have here at Goizueta that helps set our students apart from other students. Strategies for communication, dealing with ambiguity, a whole lot of different types of things are built into management practice to sharpen you academically and to sharpen you as a leader. Management practice is not only in the first semester. The class meets throughout the first 3 blocks, but also after the first semester, then you are required to complete a management practice elective. And so one of the beauties of management practice is it prepares you with the tools that you need in the first semester, but this, depending on your management practice elective, you have an opportunity to interact with corporate executives. What will often happen is you get a project from C-level folks with companies around the city of Atlanta. They say, hey, Emory, Goizueta, I know you guys have great students. We really have a business problem that we need your students to help us solve. And so that happens in a variety of ways. Within management practice also, it's important, I mentioned that different concentrations. So you see marketing on your screen, you see finance on your screen. You have a choice as to which elective management practice course you choose. I know you have some questions here.
I do.
I'll stop.
I want to make sure, I'm answering one of them right now, but I
Okay.
wanted to talk a little bit about management practice because this is a huge deal. There were 2 questions that came in about kind of the distinctiveness about the program and understanding it in a nutshell. And I did mention it in the beginning. I do consider it the curriculum, the community, and the career preparation that we do. I coined it the 3 C's. I'll trademark it at some point. But part of the reason is because the curriculum element, like I said, you'll learn classes and have coursework in any MBA program. But our curriculum is intentional and it is set up to make sure that it is for your developmental success. Management practice is one of those unique things that our school has done for a number of years. Our first kind of experiential learning class was more than 20 years ago with GMSC. So we have long-standing experience in this. So I definitely want to make sure you can talk a little bit more about how management practice is executed so that people understand that this is sort of the culmination of all of those parts that you would have learned in that first
Sure.
core timing, if you will.
Sure, and I'll defer some to Ethan also to talk about this from his perspective. But how it's you saw it in the previous slide that it runs through all 3 blocks. So management practice, we have a dean of management practice also who coordinates this, and we work. Something you should know, and I know some of you get excited or concerned when you see all these classes come up at the same time. But our faculty members talk. We host faculty meetings, so we kind of manage your course load and what will happen throughout the 3 blocks. So you're prepared with leadership, you're prepared from a communications perspective, you get lots of good general overview, and management practice is really the piece that puts the bow on your first semester because it brings all of your elements of each of your classes together. In addition to that, after your first semester is done, then you have an opportunity to take that toolkit again, to take those tools that we talked about earlier and really hone them and put them to work with your management practice elective. And so I'll defer. Would you like to add to that?
Sure. I think one of the unique things about the community and the curriculum here is that the faculty are willing to listen to the students, and I think that we have a say with changes that can happen with the program from year to year. And one of the things I really liked was being able to take the tools that I learned over the first semester and really use those in a real world setting with big name companies all around Atlanta and really all around the world this past year. We had students that were traveling around the world to work with some of the companies they work for. It was a great experience to work in a small team, but to see how in the real world the things that we learned over the first semester are really applicable to the rest of our lives.
Sure.
I'm going to move us to the next slide because
Okay.
we've got about 30 minutes left, and I
Yes.
want to make sure we talk a little bit more specifically about our community because I think actually at this point when you're bringing this up, it really is a unique part about it because MP is where you start to have that first taste of team in its totality, of really bringing together those ideals. And our process of selecting students is so, again, intentional and focused on making sure that experience is collaborative, but also strengthens you and challenges you and presses you. So I'm going to move us along and let Ethan talk a little bit about what makes our community kind of unique, and being a student here and also a leadership in our Goizueta Business Association. What is it about that intimate learning environment that really sets us apart?
Sure. So as the Executive Vice President of our Graduate Business Association, think of it as student government, we get to drive a lot of the actions and intentions that we see through the students and the program office and the faculty and alumni. And I want to draw your attention to the quote from Roberto Goizueta, our namesake of our school. We want to build a school completely distinctive in its ability to add value to our society. And he's not talking only about the 2 years that you're on campus or 1 year if you're in the one-year program. That what you add to society is something that's going to be through the rest of your life. And you see the 7 core values there. I want to focus on the foundation of that pyramid, community, and that's something that's been extremely important to me and something that I've loved to give back to the school with. Community, the Goizueta MBAs positively influence, serve, and represent the Goizueta community. And again, that's something that you're not only doing while you're here, but that's something you do while you're at your internship between your first and second year. That's something you do at your job after you graduate, and continue to give back to not only the current students, but anyone else that's looking to come to Goizueta and just be a part of this community. It's a great experience, and I highly recommend that you come to visit. If not this Saturday, then any other chance you get. So are there any questions about that, or should I move on?
I'm going to have one more question, but I
Sure.
know that you're going to address it on the next slide.
Yeah,
so I'll let
okay.
you get to it and definitely
Okay.
make sure you field it there.
So I think on the next slide, one of the great things about our community is the size. And I think that's something that sets us apart from similar business schools. The class size is about 150 to 160, and so you get to know everyone. I think over the first semester, I knew everyone almost too well at that point. There are some positives and some negatives to that, but you get to know everyone extremely well. You're not just a face in the crowd. You can put a name and a background and what concentrations people are looking at, companies they've worked for, and building that community. You can use those people, your classmates, to get information about certain companies that you're interested in or certain functions that you're interested in doing and just want to get a little information. And I think that's different from a lot of top-tier business schools. So that's something that I've really enjoyed. Another example of how having a smaller program really helps us is our engagement with the faculty. There's an open door policy. We are all on first name basis with all of our professors. They know us just like we know them and just like we know our other classmates. So it's great to hear their backstories and be able to talk to them one-on-one, get information and feedback and advice, because again, they are giving back to this community. They want to see their students succeed.
Before you move on
Sure,
to the next one,
sure.
that's what the question was about, sort
Okay.
of understanding the small design and knowing the student side, but what does that mean for faculty interaction? And I can't stress enough how having great faculty that you can actually talk with outside of the classroom. I know you said you have open door policy. I know a lot of faculty, share cell phone numbers and have after hours time and such that they work with students and how much of an advantage this is. So can you talk about, sort of how students have been able to access this, or you personally,
Sure.
how much you've kind of been able to interact with the faculty and what that's been for you?
I think it's been great, honestly. We have a lot of opportunities not only in the classroom, but really outside of the classroom. The professors make themselves accessible to us. We can call almost at any time. They try to limit it to not 2 or 3 in the morning when we've got those assignments due, but they want us to interact with them because they want us to learn, and that's why we're here, and that's what we're trying to focus on. We're trying to learn as much as we can and then be able to utilize those skills in the real world. So professors have coffee hours that they set up with us. A lot of them have review sessions, especially at the beginning of your first semester when there's a lot of classes going on, so they want to make themselves accessible and available to you. We have dinners with some professors. They come with us on gala. They lead a lot of those boat trips and other mid-semester modules when students travel around the world. We have professors that lead those. So really there's a ton of opportunity to get together with not only professors, but TAs and other students that might be able to help you in those respects.
Awesome. There's a really great question that came in here that I definitely want to make sure you address, and it comes a little bit to your core value point you're going to bring up, but the question was about the best practical opportunity that Goizueta offers to its students. So kind of not just the classroom learning and the theoretical or even some of the career side, but what are some of the practical benefits that Goizueta is giving to its students that you feel like you utilize often or
Sure.
regularly?
I think I'll talk about the management practice course that Corey talked about. I know he went into a lot of detail on that, but really getting to use those skills that you learn over the first semester in that real world setting with a real company is probably the most practical chance you'll have while you're at school. Not only that, I think being in the smaller class size, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, there are a lot of opportunities to be a leader, and a lot of what businesses are hiring business school students for is to be the eventual leaders within their company. So having a smaller program gives all of us a great opportunity to be active in campus, whether it's through student government or through clubs or through other associations or other programs that we have through the school. There are a lot of opportunities to be active, and I think that's the most practical and helpful experience that we can take out of the program.
Great. And then I'll let you talk through the core values, because this this is something that I think, like you mentioned before, is just in the fabric of who we are, and really does set us apart. And you have to experience it to fully understand it, but I think our students embody it better than anything we can put on a slide.
Sure.
So.
Roberto Goizueta gave us these 7 core values, and you'll see them all around the school. And it's something that all students live by. And I know that a lot of schools will say that, and it's easy for me to say that, but if you come to visit, you'll see the 7 core values are really lived out by all the students and really everyone on campus. As I showed you on the slide before, courage, accountability, integrity, rigor, diversity, team, and community, they're all important. And it's not something that a lot of schools, I think, focus on. A lot of schools focus on getting your internship and getting in and out, getting that job. But while you're at Goizueta, you're here to grow as a person and as a professional. And I think these core values are something that kind of lead us in that direction and really help us become better professionals, better prepared over the 2 years that we're here.
Great. So I will move us on to the next slide where
Sure.
we'll talk a little bit about the community and the clubs. And this is something I know that's near and dear to your heart in charge of the GBA. But definitely talking about the clubs and the opportunities that
Sure.
exist here.
So as the executive vice president of the GBA, I'm in charge of the clubs, so I get to see firsthand everything that the clubs do. And it's exciting this year to see how active they all are. Not only the professional clubs, the ones that can help you get prepared for your internships in finance or consulting or marketing. They've worked extremely hard on sitting down with people and helping with resumes and cover letters and mock interviews and getting those students prepared for their internships and the interviews that they're going to have. But also fun clubs. Part of being in business school and part of this community is actually enjoying the 2 years that we're here. And so
Who would have thought?
I know. So you get to see these clubs where we go out to have dinner at different restaurants or different events around Atlanta with the Supper Club, or you see Goizueta Gives or Net Impact, social enterprise clubs that are focused on community service and giving back. And there are a lot of opportunities. We have over 40 clubs right now, and they're all extremely active on campus. So it's exciting to be a part of that and really stretch myself with how much I can do while I'm at school, and I know a lot of other students feel that same way. With all of those clubs, you also get the experience and opportunity to be a leader. So again, that smaller class size allows us to really push ourselves with what we're doing here. And you can be a leader in any of those clubs. There are multiple leadership positions, whether it's president up at the top or treasurer or some sort of representative for your class. There are a ton of opportunities, and it's great. It's great to give back. It's great to push yourself, and it really helps you push yourself with something that you're interested in. There are a lot of opportunities for that. And finally, the lifelong connections, something that is near and dear to me. The community, it's not your community while you're just here. It's while you're here and long after. So I've gotten to make great connections with not only my fellow classmates, but the classmates that I had that were a year above me, the ones that are a year below me, and the alumni. The alumni network is great. Because we're a smaller program, they are extremely active and willing to respond to us when we ask questions. They're not getting 100 emails about a specific company. They're getting a few direct emails, and they're really willing to help because they want to grow the brand just like we do. And the best way to do that is to have prepared students move into these roles and move into these companies and really succeed not only in what they're doing, but as leaders within the company.
Absolutely. There was a question actually that just came in that I'd love for you to tackle because I think it is unique the way we do it here. And the question was about the role student career clubs play in the career search. And I know that the CMC is heavily involved and sort of drives that effort. But how do the career clubs in particular assist students in helping them figure out what they want, how to get it, and then sort of the everything after that with the process?
Sure. Those career clubs, as I mentioned, finance, consulting, marketing, and the general management and operations club are extremely active very early on. So coming onto campus, I know some students know exactly what they want to do, some have no idea, and then some know what they want to do and then realize that that's a terrible idea and they want to do something else. And so as second-year students and the club specifically, we're there to help you. And we've been through the process not only of working before school, but also going through the interview process and interning. And we know what students are looking for, we know what companies are looking for, and we're here to help you. So a lot of Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's
I
fine.
think to your point, I just wanted to add in, the
Mhm.
clubs this year have taken, an amazing step forward and really have worked with students to prepare them for all of the interviews in the fall.
Mhm.
This year, particularly, Ethan's class has done an amazing job, and they've prepped students in mock interviews, they've looked over resumes, and we've had amazing success even this early in the semester.
Yeah.
Because of the input of all of the career clubs.
The clubs have been very focused this semester on getting the first year students prepared. So what they've really tried to work on is those resume reviews and cover letter reviews, really working one-on-one with students, but also having a lot of club meetings early on just to give information out about opportunities with specific companies and kind of what to look for while you're interning and interviewing for those internships. So the clubs have been extremely active with that.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ethan mentioned it directly. I was typing, so I hope I didn't miss it. But we have a large variety of clubs. I think it's over 80 clubs and organizations that get involved with here. And a lot of them are in the career area such that there's a good level of granularity, energy and real estate and sustainability and healthcare, and not just in the realm of a finance club or a consulting club. And I think that distinction and the ability to have those there means that you can live in both worlds. You can learn about finance in the large sense, but also the granularity of iBanking versus corporate finance. And that is the kind of thing where when you're in the program, it really does help to flush out where your strengths are. You might have come in thinking you really loved corporate finance and then find out, I think I'm more interested in this different realm of finance instead. So,
in addition to what Angela said, something that I failed to mention earlier, but with your electives, you have an opportunity to choose a concentration. So kind of speaking to your point, you can have as many concentrations as you would like, or you can have none at all. Only finance requires 4 elective courses in that area, but the other ones are 3, and so you're going to take many more classes than those, and many of the classes will cross over with to support some of the club initiatives as well. So it really helps you understand who you are as a student.
great.
At the same time, you don't only need one concentration. If you're
Right.
interested in multiple things, you can absolutely do
Go for
multiple
it.
concentrations.
Yep.
Ethan, did you have 1 or 2 or?
Right
6.
now, I think I'm looking at 3, but
Right.
it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
up in the air right now.
Ethan is an overachiever.
Right.
That's fabulous. Yeah, no, definitely. It does not have to limit you to simply being in one area. And again, back to Corey's point about that front-loaded core, that gives you the opportunity to kind of dabble in the different areas of interest. You may strongly want finance, but want to test out the waters of a different strand or get some background in marketing to complement some of those skills. And that uniquely does all of that. And for those who are in the 2-year interest pool, in advance even of that internship, being able to have a couple of things that you've tried out.
And we have good relationships all across campus within different units of the university. I mentioned earlier that we have a global focus as well. Many of our students will want to sharpen their skills with international languages and with different languages. So we have relationships where you have an opportunity to take classes in Spanish or French or whatever language you choose as well.
And I should say that I've answered a couple of you who all have emailed or who have asked about classes across campus. Emory is an amazing opportunity for a lot of areas, not just within the business school, but in the healthcare sector, in the field of theology and law, and all type of courses around there. And as you progress in your program, there is opportunity for you to take some of those classes
Absolutely.
and explore those interests, which really does set you apart because uniquely you can do that and not sacrifice, do I take another finance class because I need it, or can I get into a different area? So.
In addition to that, too, we have not only relationships across Emory, but we are a member of a consortium of schools in the Atlanta area. So if there is a class that you're really interested in at Georgia Tech or another school, you have the option to work through Emory to get to those classes as well.
Fabulous. Well, I'm going to move us along because we've got 15 minutes and Maureen has got an
That's
awesome
right.
amount of career
That's
info
right.
that y'all have been feverishly asking about that I keep saying, Maureen's going to tackle it, Maureen's going to tackle it.
Right,
So
right.
I'm going to transition it over to Maureen to talk a little bit
Great.
about career preparation at
Great.
Goizueta.
Last but not least.
Last
right?
but definitely not least.
Excellent. So your career management here at Goizueta really happens long before you step foot on campus. So you will be coming, rather over the summer, we will be coming to you through emails, video, and really giving you a lot of information, preparing you to come on campus. You'll be doing, career assessments, trying to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. We'll pair you with a second-year student called a peer career coach, and you'll also be paired with a coach here on campus, a person that will help you kind of put your resume together, understand what you're interested in, and really get you prepared for when you come on campus. So hopefully you have your resume knocked out, you get some great advice from a second year, and you're really prepared to come on campus and learn a little bit more about where you want to move forward. And so then when you get on campus, we have a course called Professional Development. So professional development happens in your first block, and you will see the Career Management Center crew very frequently. During that course, we'll help prepare you for interviews, we'll help you with networking, help you to understand how to do that outreach to alumni. And so you'll really be prepared really early in the semester to really start your career search. Early in the semester too, you will also have the opportunity to go on career treks. That's something that our students love to ask about, and they get really excited because there's treks here in Atlanta, but there's also treks in San Francisco as well as New York, and oftentimes we have another city, whether it be Boston or Chicago. It really depends on student interest. And students go out to companies that they're interested in and are able to learn informationally about companies and if that's the career they're interested in. So we have a tech trek that goes to San Francisco to learn about technology companies. We have an investment banking trek that goes to New York. We have a marketing trek that goes to New York. We have a marketing trek here in Atlanta. So you really get to understand about not only functions, but also companies you might be interested in really early in your career. We also have tons of support from second years from the clubs that will help get you prepared for all of those important career conferences. There's a lot of conferences, National Black, which just happened last weekend, in Nishimba, which is coming up the next year, that have hundreds of companies that come to one site where you can have interviews right there on site. And so having this early preparation, professional development, these career treks, working on your resume over the summer really prepares you early, very early in your first year to be prepared to be able to do those interviews and to be able to really get your career search on track. Because we do all of this early career preparation, we've had amazing results. In 2012, I can tell you those results. We had a 98% employment offer rate, 3 months out. I hope
right within 3 years they had all
gotten
it off.
3 months out, and that's the highest percentage in the country. We're ranked #1 for career management across the United States. So our early preparation, working with the clubs and working with students over the summer really has set us up for success.
Absolutely. So there have been a lot of good questions on this as soon as you started, and so
Yeah.
I held them off because
Yes,
I want to make
of
sure that we
course,
address
of
it.
course.
But I'm gonna go down the bullets that you have there, sort of talking about the big one was the career week, and so the questions about what is the purpose of that? Do students go? Are they interviewing when they're there? Are they just an informational process?
No, it's a great question.
So what is the makeup of that week?
It's really an informational process. You will be interviewing on campus for most of the positions, but Career Week allows you, and it's actually a week when you have off classes,
right.
so you have nothing else to worry about. You have a week to really focus on your career. So you're able to go up to companies, learn, understand, meet alumni, and kind of test the waters without being in a real interview situation. So we really encourage students to go on at least one career trek. They can even go on 2. During Career Week, if you choose not to go on a trek, you can also stay in Atlanta and do workshops. We have workshops on interviewing, on cover letters, on our different technique called STAR interviewing sessions. So we have a lot of other sessions you can do if you don't choose to actually leave Atlanta.
And then great, for the interviewing, you talk about extensive interview and career preparation and support. And that is all in advance of the recruiting process. So can you talk a little bit about the different ways, formally and informally, full-time students are able to engage with recruiters? So from the services that you guys help them coordinate, as well as some of the things the clubs or other areas facilitate them to do?
Well, we have a whole process. Like I said, we have a class, and we also have other requirements, things like mock interviews. We require students to do a mock interview with both a student, a coach within our office, as well as an alumni. But we also have, different workshops about how to interview correctly. We have workshops on how to write a cover letter. We work directly with the clubs on resume writing skills. We work with the clubs on interviewing. And so really, we kind of try and touch at different points, if it's not within our office, but also working with the clubs and alumni too, because alumni come back a lot. And so that's a way that our students can engage with our alumni and get feedback and reach out to them and understand, am I headed in the correct direction?
Absolutely.
I think just to add, informally, the Career Management Center has been great at just letting us walk in and talk to them. I know Maureen may have gotten tired of me last year
Oh,
walking in
okay.
as much as I did. So you don't have to have appointments set up. You can walk in and talk with your Career Management Center coach and get a lot of that feedback one-on-one in a less formal setting, so that they make themselves available to us as well.
I think it goes back to the community part we talked about before, is it small by design means that there is a bit more conversational tone. There can be a little more, I'm questioning about this, I'm not formally sure what I want to ask about, 5 minutes in the hallway, and not necessarily a full appointment, and they're very good about making sure they accommodate as best as they can, because they have an enormously busy schedule, but accommodate the students across all the programs.
We do, but I think it's a great point to make that we know every single student. So I know Ethan personally because I worked with him one-on-one last year. And so one advantage of the small community is that we know our students. We know you. You'll come by and see us. You'll just stop by, whether it is for an informal appointment or a formal mock interview. So I think that's a real advantage too. And it speaks to the results. It's an advantage to the small community, and it speaks to our results because we really do know our students.
So there are two big questions that have come in that talk about the increased interviewing and hiring companies. And so you mentioned despite the economy, but I just want to give you guys kudos in general for just continuing to make a vibrant population of companies present for the students that are in the program. I'm sure I speak on Ethan and his classmates' behalf.
Absolutely.
That there is no shortage of companies here. So can you talk a little bit about the industries or areas that you've been seeing growth on interviewing in the last couple of years, and then what some of the top hiring companies were for the 2012, for the data that we had from last year, sort of related to where we saw hiring there?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to point out that we survey our students to understand what companies they're interested in. We have alumni all over the country and all over the world. So if there's a company that isn't on campus, we work with our alumni at that particular company to pass along your resume if they don't actually come on campus. So we're really able to work with our students and understand where they want to be. Recently, more students have been interested in consulting, and so we've done tons of outreach to different consulting companies, and we have an increase in consulting companies doing interviews on campus this year. And so that's because that's what our students wanted. So we really listen to our students and try and focus in the areas that our students are interested in. We've seen also a lot of more strategy positions, and that's something that students have asked for. It's still in that consulting area, but a little bit different, doing internal strategy for a lot of consumer product goods companies. So we've seen an increase in those positions. I think another important point to mention is that we've seen an increase in positions for international students. A lot of international students come here and are extremely anxious about finding a job, but we at Goizueta, we have a higher percentage of job openings for our international students than other schools, especially other top 20 schools. So that's an area that we've really been focusing on and been very successful in too.
Awesome. And I think that speaks again to your continual focus on making sure we're staying on the edge of that, and constant feedback. And you should talk a little bit about how the CMC interfaces with recruiters regularly to sort of know not just what's happening right now, but are there things and trends in the future we should be prepping our students for differently, or anything in that regard?
So after you have any interview on campus, we follow up with the recruiters that day, and we get feedback not only on our students in general, but individual students. So we're able to come back to you the next day and say, hey, you did a great job in that interview, and these are the points that the interviewer really liked, or hey, this is what you need to work on. So we're that in tune with our recruiting partners that we are able to sit down with them and have a great conversation about what we're doing right and what we could work on. And we really love that feedback because it goes directly back to our students. And you can see improvement in students throughout 3 interviews because they get that valuable feedback in their first and second interview. So that's something that because we've had these relationships with companies year after year and we've been building on them, we feel more than comfortable going up to them and getting really, really good and not so great feedback from our partners.
Wonderful. And I know you're going to talk in greater detail about the last two bullets on the percentages in the next slide, so I'm going to let
Yeah,
you go ahead
sure.
and speak to that rather than ask the question before we get to the
Sure.
infamous pie graph.
I know,
So.
we have all these future MBA students, so you guys love graphs,
Right.
you love data. So here's our data slide from
Exactly.
the CMC. You can see, we can share with you data from 2010 to 2012. We just about have our 2013 data completed, but when you see it in the next few weeks, you'll be just as impressed by the numbers. So as you can see, we've had amazing percentages for job offers for our students. In 2012, we had a 98% job offer rate, and we also have had an amazing 100% internship offer percentage from 10 of the last 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I know students get nervous and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the one who breaks the streak. I think Ethan said that.
A couple times.
But I just want to assure you that students have more than enough, possibilities and opportunities that they can take advantage of interviewing here on campus to get those offers.
Absolutely.
If we look specifically at the graph as to what students are interested in, like many other top 20 MBA schools, our students are interested in consulting, marketing, and finance. So that finance could be corporate finance, it could also be banking. And we also have high interest in general management and other functions too. I mean, we have real estate, we have a strong real estate program, operations, healthcare. So if whatever you have, we do have jobs here in those areas, or job opportunities here in those areas. So if you're not a consulting person, we have other jobs. We're actually, happy to have those students that
Right.
have some different interests too, because we have employers that want our students
Absolutely.
in those areas.
Absolutely.
So again, if you want to look at the stats specifically, you can see that our base salary our base salary has increased the last 3 years and will increase this next year. Also, our signing bonus has increased each year and will increase this next year. So there's nowhere to go but up.
Absolutely. And I will toot their horn for them because they will not themselves, but definitely the salary and bonus figures have been great strides and such, and focused on making sure that students are being able to pursue and realize the fullness of their career opportunities. We were ranked number 1 among salary and bonus increases over the last 3 years for U.S. News and World Report top 25 schools, which is a huge testament to not just what the CMC has been able to help students achieve, but to the curriculum and the manner in which that has made our students more highly sought after. I mean, that's really the bottom line, because that means that more individuals are being sought after by top companies and large entities around the country. That said, as Maureen has mentioned, there are a number of industries that are in this pie chart that are not in those great big 3 buckets
Right.
that we get students for, and we do, 98% means that it's a lot of people that get jobs, and they don't all want those things. So there's a lot of focus. One question that has come in has been about international students, and are there areas where international students can or cannot necessarily apply for American jobs, or fields or industries and such, and how do you work with international students? Is it different than working with domestic students?
No, working with international students, they have just the same opportunities that the American students have. They go through the professional development class, they do the mock interviews, they do everything. They're a student is a student for us.
Right.
As far as opportunities, it's really something that is a company choice. And we've really targeted companies that are interested in international students and are interested in that international experience. And so we have targeted a lot of companies so we can build those relationships, so we can give a lot of opportunities to our international students.
Absolutely, and I think that's not just in full-time, but that's also in the internship opportunities and such. There are a lot of things that are open to international students. There are there are amazing resources down there to determine and mine what those things really are. So I know we have 2 more minutes left. I want to make sure that I don't lose the fact that we're talking about this sort of the overall value proposition. And I'm going to take us back to the first slide, because Corey mentioned it at the very beginning, kind of the distinctiveness of this school, and really being the only school that can deliver those 3 things you see there, that world-class education, this environment, this dynamic city, and the result being short and long-term career success, personal and professional success. And you see that in the results of our students and our graduates across the board, and recruiters mention that, but also peers and sort of the networks and things that you build. So the school really does have a unique distinction and a dynamic and vibrant environment that we heavily encourage you to come visit. So I will do my plug for getting you on campus. If you have not yet visited the website, shame on you, but when you go back, go and visit the events section of the website and see the listing of all the on-campus and even off-campus events that admissions and the CMC and alumni are hosting around the country. We're in New York and DC and California. During treks and such, we have events for prospective students as well. And then we always host open houses here on campus. The first being this Saturday, where there is still room for you specifically to be able to sign up, and another one in October as well. So hopefully you'll come to campus. Those are dates you can actually conduct your admissions interview. If you select and request the date, they'll try to get you in for an admissions interview and get you further into that application process so that you can be sitting here where Ethan is, telling someone else about how great this program is and what it's been able to do for you. So on behalf of this amazing panel, who I thank greatly for their time today, and for putting up with me, I apologize if I typed anything wrong in my fast responses, but hopefully you learned a little bit more about this dynamic community and how this program can fit into your long-term MBA goals. So we thank you for joining us and hope you have a wonderful week.